Hello crafty friends and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to create a very clean and simple card dedicated to our amazing teachers, those who work so hard to shape our future. Their support, guidance and their wisdom they have shared have played such a big role in who we are today. For today's card project, I'm keeping the design minimal and elegant, perfect for mass producing in a range of different colors. I'll be working with a monochromatic theme using different shades of reds to create a one layer card that is both striking and easy to replicate. Before we get started, I would really appreciate if you could take a minute to subscribe to my channel and hit on the bell icon so that you get notified every time I post a new video. Let's start by taking a look at the stamp set that we will be using today. Now, this is the Appreciate You stamp set by Simon's Stamp. It features several charming images. We have a light bulb with a star-shaped filament, an apple, and a post-it note that would work beautifully as focal point for your cards. It also includes smaller elements like stars and a paperclip, perfect for adding little embellishments on your card front. Now, this set is perfect for creating heartfelt thank you cards, whether you're showing your appreciation to your teachers, mentors, or to anyone who's made a difference in your life. Some of the sub sentiments include: We appreciate you, you're a star, you make a difference. Teacher, thank you for a great year, for all you do, for caring. You shine a bright light on education. As I mentioned in the introduction, I'll be creating a monochromatic card design, and for this project, I have chosen to work with various shades of red. Now, I decided to go with a one layer card featuring the apple image as my focal point. For the background, I'll be using all of those beautiful sentiments from the stamp set, stamped in bright cherry ink from the Simon's Stamp Positively Saturated Ink collection. I began by stamping the focal point image, which is the big apple, using Memento black ink since I will be coloring it with my Ohuhu alcohol markers. I made sure to leave enough space above and below this focal point apple to add a sentiment later on. Now, once the focal point was in place, it was time to stamp the background using all of those sentiments. Rather than stamping them individually, I created a custom background stamp by arranging all the sentiments around the focal point image. To ensure everything was in straight line and well aligned, I used my Simon's Stamp grid transparency sheet. You'll notice that some of the sentiments are positioned horizontally while others are vertical. This mix adds a beautiful visual interest to our background. Once I was happy with the layout, I simply closed the door of my stamping tool, and just like that, I had a custom background stamp filled with beautiful thank you and appreciation messages. Since this was my first time using the stamp set, I made sure to condition the stamps before inking them. You can do this by gently rubbing them with your fingers like I did, or by cleaning them using a stamp cleaner. This single step helps ensure you get a smooth and even impression when you stamp. For the background, I used cherry ink, the brightest red in my collection, and stamped the full panel about 3 times to get a rich, bold, and crisp result. If you're doing multiple stampings like this, you should make sure that the paper stays in the exact same position to avoid any smudging. To fill in the empty spaces between the sentiments, I added some of the small stars and stamped them, but unlike the sentiments, which I stamped several times for a sharper look, the stars were only stamped once. This gave them a more subtle and textured effect when you look closely. Once I was happy with all the stars and the positionings, I decided to add the paperclip stamp to fill in the few of the remaining gaps. For the paperclip, I used VersaFine Onyx Black ink instead of the red. The black, I feel, really stands out and adds a nice contrast against the vibrant red background. I'm also considering trying this design in green with all of those sentiments stamped in a lovely green shade and a fun green apple as the focal point. Well, I think a rainbow background could be really playful too. What color would you choose for the background? Let me know in the comment section below. Here's a closer look at the panel. I just love the simplicity of this design and how each sentiment beautifully expresses gratitude. Well, now it's time to add some color to our focal point. I'm using my Ohuhu brush tip alcohol markers, which is especially helpful for coloring larger images like this apple. I blended three different shades of red to create depth and dimension. For my leaves, I mixed greens from my Ohuhu collection with few shades from the Spectrum Noir Tri-Blend markers. And for the stem, I used a touch of brown to complete the look. With all the coloring complete, the card is nearly finished. But for me, no project is complete without a touch of sparkle. Now, for adding shine and sparkle, I always like using my Spectrum Noir glitter brush pen to add a little bit of shimmer just on the stars here. Just a hint of sparkle can really make a big impact. And just like that, with a bold focal point and a background filled with heartfelt sentiments, our card is complete. I love how simple and fun this design was to put together. It's also a great technique to get more use out of your stamp set by turning all those sentiments into a custom background. A little stars and the paper clips add just the right touch of visual interest to finish off this design. Well, I hope you enjoyed watching today's video as much as I did creating this card project and that it sparked a little inspiration for your next project. All the supplies that I used for today's video will be linked down in the description box below. Please note that all of these links are affiliate links, which means that if you shop using one of my links, I get a small commission at no cost to you guys. Thank you again for joining me today. Until next time, stay safe. Hello crafty friends and welcome back to my channel. Today we are diving into a fun creative card project featuring a mix of beautiful elements. We'll be working with a gorgeous floral layering stencil, nesting dies, floral die cuts, and bold eye-catching sentiments, plus of course some sparkle and embellishments to finish it off. All these elements come together to create a stunning card front that y'all will love. Before we jump into the project, I would really appreciate if you could take a minute to subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon so that you get notified every time I post a new video. Now, when working with a project that involves lots of different elements, I find it helpful to take things one step at a time. So let's start by creating a stunning background using the Mosaic Petals stencil set. This set includes 5 layering stencils designed to build a beautifully detailed daisy-inspired floral design. The first 4 layers allow you to play with various color combinations, while the fifth layer adds decorative dots and floral centers for extra interest. These stencils are 6 by 6 inches in size, making them a great fit for your A2 size card fronts. And you're not limited to just ink blending. You can also use these with sprays, pastes, and other mediums to add texture and dimensions on your card front. If you prefer a cleaner, less busy background, you can absolutely use one or two of those stencils from the set to achieve a lovely floral effect on your card front. Well, for my background today, I have chosen soft and elegant lavender and green color palette. I'll be using the Simon Says Stamp Positively Saturated inks in the shade Orchid, Amethyst, Aspen, and Sage for my flowers, and Citrine for the flower centers. To keep my panel securely in place, I'm using the Simon Says Stamp Sticky Mat. It not only holds both the panel and stencil firmly, but also makes ink blending so much more easier, especially when I'm working with layering stencils where alignment is the key. Now, I began with my first stencil, which features this detailed floral pattern. I applied sage ink to one half of the panel and used amethyst on the other half to create a beautiful contrast. You'll notice that the middle row of flowers features a soft blend of both the purple and green, which creates such a beautiful transition. I'm really loving how these colors work together. The green blends seamlessly into the purple. Well, it's not a combination that I usually gravitate towards, but I'm so glad I chose it for this project. After finishing the ink blending, I carefully peel off the stencil. You'll notice it's not the easiest to remove the stencil, and that just shows how well the sticky mat holds everything in place, keeping your stencil and panel secure throughout the ink blending process. Now, at this point, I want to slow down and show you how I clean my stencils, especially when I'm working with either layering stencils or when I'm mass producing cards in different color schemes using the same stencil. I like to keep two microfiber cloths on hand. I place one underneath, lightly mist the inked area with water, and then I use the second cloth to gently wipe away the ink and any other residue on the stencil. It's a quick and effective way to keep your stencils clean. While my first stencil is drying, I move on to the next layer and repeat this process each time I finish ink blending. For the second stencil as well, I stuck with the same purple and green color palette but switched it to a different shade. I used aspen green and orchid purple. Now, this mix of lighter and darker tones creates a lovely contrast and a smooth, vibrant blend that really enhances the background. Now you could stop right here where I used just the first two layers and still have a gorgeous floral pattern. But I chose to go for a more detailed, fuller background by using the stencil number 3 and 4 to fill in all those smaller gaps as well. For the third stencil, I used only green, and for my fourth, I used just the purple to keep the colors balanced but still visually rich. The fifth and final layer of the stencil adds the flower centers along with tiny dot accents to complete the background. For this, I used a vibrant shade of citrine ink, which really adds a pop of color. At this stage, you could also take it a step further by applying glitter paste or even a touch of gold paste over the yellow areas for extra shine and texture. Well, I chose to add a touch of shimmer for a subtle sparkle. Here's a closer look at the finished panel. I absolutely love how beautifully it turned out. Next, we'll work on the sentiment. I stamped the word Hello Friend sentiment from this beautiful Mod Plan stamp set, which was part of the Rain or Shine release by Simon's Stamp. I used my VersaFine Onyx Black ink and stamped the sentiment on a piece of white cardstock for a crisp, bold impression. To turn it into a sentiment label, I used the petal tipped label dies, which is a set of 9 nesting dies. Of course, you could also opt for a simple sentiment strip or even a sentiment circle. I really love how the sentiment label looks on the card front, even with the busy background. However, I felt it needed a little extra something to make it stand out even more. That's when I decided to add another layer using the same label die. For this, I'm using the lavender Thai Unuru paper from the latest box number 11 by Your Paper Insider. I absolutely adore this paper. It has such a lovely feathered texture and it is absolutely lightweight, making it perfect addition to your cards. I cut the label using the next size up from the nesting die set and then adhered it behind the white sentiment label, creating a soft lavender border around my sentiment. You could center the sentiment label, but I chose to position it towards the right hand corner of the panel to ensure that I'm not covering up that beautiful floral background. I adhered the sentiment label with liquid glue on the card front. To add a little extra detail, I created a small floral arrangement below the sentiment using the plentiful petals die set and the leafy sprig die. I finished off the card by placing a few metallic toned dazzling gems on either side of the sentiment, and for final touch, I added some sparkle to the flowers and the leaves with my glitter brush pen. Here's a closer look at the finished card. I absolutely love how beautiful this card turned out. With stenciling, ink blending, die cutting, plenty of layering, and just the right amount of sparkle, I'm really happy with how all the elements came together to create this beautiful card front. While this project was definitely time consuming, if you're someone who enjoys mass producing cards, my suggestion would be to break it down into steps. You could start by creating all the backgrounds at once, then work on your sentiment labels, and finish off by adding those floral focal points on each of your card fronts. This design is definitely so versatile, allowing for endless color combinations and suitable for so many different occasions. Well, I hope you enjoyed watching today's video and got inspired. All the supplies that I used will be linked down in the description box below. Please note that all of these links are affiliate links, which means that if you shop using one of my links, I get a small commission at no cost to you guys. Thank you again for joining me today. Until next time, stay safe. Hello, crafty friends, and welcome back to my channel. Well, we are not making any card today, but I'm really excited to share some fun, crafty goodies I recently treated myself to, courtesy of Altenew. Some of the items here are from older releases, but I also picked up something brand new. The highlight of this little shopping spree will definitely be my new stamp wheel. I've had my eye on this stamping tool for quite a while and I finally gave in and added it to my collection. And I'm so glad I did. I've been using it for about a week now and I have to say I absolutely love it. It's definitely something I'd recommend to all my fellow crafters. Before we dive into the fun haul, including a closer look at the stamp wheel, I would really appreciate if you could take a minute to subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon so that you never miss a new video. Let's start with these beautiful mini ink cubes. I picked up two sets, Summer Sunrise and Ocean Dreams, from the Fresh Dye Ink line. Now, if you've watched my previous videos, you know how much I love my Simon System positively saturated inks. But I was curious to try something new and explore a different shades from another brand. These mini ink cubes come with 12 gorgeous colors covering most of the primary tones and a bunch of shades I thought would make a perfect addition to my collection. Well, I already own the Altenew's Rose Gold Pigment ink, which I absolutely love, and it's perfect for adding elegant gold accents to my cards and floral designs. So I'm really hoping these little mini ink cubes will be just as impressive. Next up is the Paint by Numbers Blooming Floral Watercolor Sheets. Now, this set includes 12 watercolor sheets, two of each design, featuring a unique floral illustration. Each design is printed with both bold black lines and lighter gray outlines, giving you some flexibility in how you paint them. The paper is high quality, heavyweight, 140-pound watercolor paper, cut to 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches, exactly the size of an A2 size card front. You will get two sheets of each design plus a handy color guide to make your painting even more easier. These sheets are designed to coordinate perfectly with the Altenew acrylic marker set 24 colors volume 1. You can use them as your card fronts or even frame them as decor for your craft space. Either way, they offer a fun and relaxing way to unwind after a long stressful day. I think this set would make a wonderful gift for a young or beginner crafter. It's easy to follow since the colors are guided by numbers, and well, for more experienced artists, there's plenty of room to add your own flair with detailed shading and blending. It would be such a fun activity for your next paint and sip night with friends, too. What do you think? I'd love to hear how you would use these watercolor panels. Let me know in the comments below. Next up is the Shimmering Shore Glitter Gradient Cardstock. This little pack includes 4 stunning shades of no shed glitter cardstock in a beautiful gradient of blues. Well, teal blues, I would say. They are perfect for adding shiny, eye catching embellishments to your card projects. Each sheet is glittered on one side and plain white on the back, measuring 3 inches by 6 inches and weighing in at 110 pounds, making them sturdy enough for die cutting and great for layering focal point elements. I also love using this type of cardstock for die cutting sentiments. It adds the perfect touch of sparkle to any card project. Next, I have the Altenew's latest Craft Your Life project kit for the month of May, and it's called Magnificent Magnolias. Now, this beautiful kit includes a stamp set, coordinating die, layering stencil, and a stunning 3D embossing folder, all neatly packaged in the Altenew's signature storage pockets. Now, I've got a video coming soon on my channel where I'll be creating cards with this kit and diving into all the details of each project, plus how I use them in all of my designs. So stay tuned and you won't want to miss that. Also, be sure to check out the Altenew's latest May release. It's filled with their signature florals, coordinating sets, and so much more creative goodness. You'll find all the details and links in the description box below. One of the biggest advantages of kits like this one is that all the products are perfectly coordinated. Now, if you're someone like me who's not a big fan of fussy cutting, this kit is a dream. You not only get coordinating dies, but you also get coordinating stencils that make coloring quick, easy, and effortless. And as an added bonus, it also includes beautifully designed 3D embossing folder that pairs seamlessly with the rest of the set. Now for the most exciting part of this crafty haul, my brand new stamp wheel. Now this is the original size measuring 9 by 9 inches, and well, after using it for a week, I can confidently say it's become an essential companion in my craft room. It's absolutely perfect for anyone who loves stamping and ink blending. Out of the box, the first thing you'll notice is the ultra sticky mat. I already had this in my collection from my previous purchase, and it's one of my favorites. It's fantastic for ink blending and for holding tiny cardstock pieces while adding color. It grips your cardstocks and stencils securely, so no need for any magnets or tapes to keep things in place. Also included is the slim grip sticky mat, which fits perfectly inside the stamp wheel, perfect to accommodate thicker cling rubber stamps. First, we have the stamping stage, which is where the sticky mat will sit. I simply place it directly onto my work surface. Next, we have the radial grid clear flip plate, which fits perfectly into the stamp wheel. This plate is etched with radial grids that make wreath building, stamping, and other techniques a breeze. At a first glance, the plate might appear a bit cloudy, but that's just because of the protective film it comes with. You can easily peel it off before you start using your stamp wheel. Next, we'll add the ultra sticky mat. To do this, simply remove the photopolymer sticky mat from the protective sheets from both front and back. Then place the mat inside the stamp wheel with the engraved side facing down and the flat side facing up. You can place your cardstocks, small die cut pieces, or even materials like acetate and vellum onto the sticky mat. Once they're on there, you'll notice they stay in place, perfect for ink blending and working with stencils without any shifting. I wanted to give you a quick demonstration of how this product works. As you can see, I've already placed an A2 size panel of 110 Nino Solar White cardstock at the center of my stamp wheel. I'm planning to stamp a floral image on this panel using the large floral stamp from the Alluring Orchid stamp set, and just like I would position it in my Tim Holtz stamping tool, the same exact thing is what I'm going to do here. Well, once I'm happy with the placement of the stamp, I bring the grid plate and carefully place it on the stamp wheel, ensuring that the stamp sticks to this grid plate. Once that is done, we can remove the plate and flip it upside down with the stamp facing up and load it with my VersaFine Onyx Black ink. Well, at this point, you could use any color, any choice of ink. I like to use VersaFine Onyx Black ink because I feel that gives a very rich and deep dark impression. After inking up the stamp thoroughly, I flipped the plate back over and pressed the stamp onto the cardstock. This results in a very clean and precise impression. Well, however, I realized my ink pad was a little too dry, so I decided to stamp it a second time for a deeper impression. Well, I also wanted to test if this goes back in place and I do not get any kind of smudging or overlapping. I stamped the image again and simply flipped the grid plate over and stamped it again. The best part, just like my regular stamping tool, I got that perfect, precise double impression without any shifting of my paper. I could stamp it again and I will know that the stamped image will be as precise as always. I cleaned my stamp using a stamp cleaner and now we are ready to stamp our sentiment. I chose a small sentiment from the same stamp set that says, "Hope you have a happy day," which I felt pairs beautifully with the floral image. To ensure the sentiment is perfectly aligned, I'm using my trusty transparency sheet. I place it right over my A2 size panel, allowing me to position the sentiment just right. Then, like closing the door of my stamping tool, I'll bring the plate down over the stamp and pick it up. I again used my VersaFine Onyx Black ink for the sentiment and flipped the plate to stamp it onto my card front. Take a look at how beautiful, clean, and crisp the result is, thanks to our new stamp wheel. Once I'm done stamping, I carefully peel the paper off the sticky mat using a pointy tool. Don't forget to clean your sticky mat after each use. I usually wipe it down with a damp microfiber cloth or a wet wipe to prevent staining. Note that darker inks, especially reds and blues, might leave some staining, but that won't affect the mat's performance. Every so often, I also rinse the sticky mat under running water to remove any dust or residue. After washing, let it air dry completely before the next use. Thank you so much for joining me today for this little crafty haul and a peek at a fun new product that I treated myself to. You can find links to all the items mentioned in the description box below. Please note that all those links will be affiliate links, which means that if you shop using one of my links, I get a small commission at no cost to you guys. Thank you again for joining me today. Until next time, stay safe. Hello, crafty friends, and welcome back to my channel. Today, we are diving into not one but two stunning card projects featuring the magnificent Magnolias Craft Your Life project kit from Altenew. Now, this beautiful kit is part of their May release, and I'm absolutely loving the coordinating elements it includes. We have a gorgeous stamp set, matching dies, stencils, and even a 3D embossing folder. Well, before we jump into the creative fun, I would really appreciate if you could take a minute to subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon so that you get notified whenever I post a new video. The Craft Your Life project kit is a monthly subscription plan by Altenew, and with gorgeous Magnolia edition, you get everything you need in one coordinating package. We have an elegant Magnolia bloom, heartfelt sentiments, and so much more. This all in one kit makes it incredibly easy to create sophisticated and meaningful card projects without any fuss. Now, everything comes neatly packaged in the Altenew signature storage pocket, which makes organizing your supplies a breeze, especially since you can keep all those coordinating pieces together in one place. Let's start with this beautiful, magnificent Magnolia stamp set, which features two graceful Magnolia branches, and we have five different sentiments. Now, these sentiments are beautifully scripted phrases along with a variety of smaller sub sentiments that pair perfectly. Next up is the coordinating die set, which is designed to create layered magnolias in different sizes and perspectives. What makes this even better is the Altenews keyhole system, which simplifies the layering process, making it quick and effortless to assemble these blooms. The set also includes dies to cut out those large eye-catching sentiments. I like to trim magnetic sheets and attach them to the flaps of the storage pocket. This keeps all the little die cut pieces in place and easy to access. The front of the packaging shows how these flowers can be assembled and layered together, but once you have them all laid out, you will find it a lot more easier. And well, later in the video, I'll show you what exactly I'm talking about and how easy these flowers are to layer over each other. Moving on, we have coordinating stencils which will help you add color to your stamped magnolia branches and even lets you add textured details to the vases that are featured in the embossing folder. Last but not the least, we have the Magnificent Magnolias 3D embossing folder that showcases three unique vases inspired by sleek, modern ceramic designs. You can use them as standalone focal points on your card fronts or combine them with the stamped branches and layered magnolias for a beautifully dimensional look. Well, that was everything included in the Craft Your Life project kit, Magnificent Magnolias. The kit truly has all the essentials to kickstart your creativity. In fact, I'd say it makes a perfect gift for someone new to crafting. It comes complete with a 6 by 8-inch stamp set, coordinating dies, a layering stencil, and beautifully detailed 3D embossing folder. All you need to add are some lovely inks and cardstocks, and you're all set to start crafting right away. Let's dive into card number one. For this design, I'll be creating a beautiful floral background using the die cut magnolias along with a stamped magnolia branch as my focal point. I'm starting with an A2 size card panel which I've placed on my brand new Ultinew stamp wheel. Now, if you haven't seen my previous video yet, I would highly recommend checking it out. I did a full unboxing of the stamp wheel, shared a project I made with it, and well, also gave my initial impressions on this tool. Now, to begin with, I will be stamping the magnolia branch right in the center of this card panel using Memento Black ink. I double stamped the image to ensure I got a nice and crisp impression. Thanks to the sticky mat on the stamp wheel, my cardstock stays perfectly in place, so there's no worry about shifting or getting a smudged image. Since the stencil was slightly larger than the stamp wheel platform, I decided to switch to another ultra sticky mat, an old favorite of mine that I have had since a really long time. It's my go-to whenever I'm doing ink blending or on larger panels like this one, or even on smaller die cut pieces. Now, to prevent any ink from going outside the stencil lines, I masked off the edges using post-it notes. For blending in finer areas of the stencil, I used my mini ink blending brushes by Cat Scrappiness. They are perfect for those tiny little details. You'll notice the stencil aligns beautifully with the stamped magnolia branches. I began by blending in some lovely shades of browns from the Simon's Stamp Positively Saturated Ink collection. On the same stencil layer, there are also leaf elements which I colored using a mix of green tones to add depth and variation. I also added a touch of brown at the base of each of those leaves to give them more depth and dimension, and I absolutely love how this panel turned out. Well, honestly, you could stop right there. The stamped and stencil branches and the leaves are beautiful on their own. Just add a sentiment from the same stamp set, and your card would be complete. But of course, I wanted to take it a step further and try out the layering dies. Well, I have used Altenew's floral layering dies before, but this is the very first time using the keyhole system, and I was really excited to give it a go. To start, I die cut all of those tiny little floral pieces using white cardstock. Each die block cuts out the petals for an individual floral arrangement. There are four different flower designs in this set, and thanks to the unique keyhole shapes on each one, it is super easy to match the layers correctly, making the assembly process so much more smoother and quicker. Here is a closer look at two different flowers with the different designs of the keyhole. This is exactly what I'm talking about. This design makes it a lot more easier to assemble all of those little petals and creating into a beautiful bloom. Next, I placed all the little die cut pieces onto my ultra sticky mat, which is perfect for holding them in place while I add color. This is where the fun begins, adding some soft ink blending to bring those petals to life. Well, I chose to keep the flowers very clean and simple with minimal coloring. Using the Cadet ink from the Positively Saturated Ink collection, which is a gorgeous shade of blue, I added ink just to the centers of the petals with a mini ink blending brush for a soft and subtle look. Once all the petals were colored, it was time to assemble them and create beautiful floral arrangements. I always keep the layering guide that can be found on the back of the die packaging nearby to make sure everything is aligned correctly. For assembly, I use my Barely Art liquid glue and I apply it on the center of each of those petals and layer them one by one to build a beautiful flower with lots of dimension and beautiful details. The keyhole system really simplifies the layering process and it takes the guesswork out of it. I love how thoughtfully designed these shapes are. We've got keyholes, arrows, triangles, each one acting as a visual guide. And with multiple different flower types in this set, those distinct shapes were incredibly helpful. They serve as a foolproof alignment markers, making it super easy to line up each die cut piece correctly. All you need to do is match the shapes and you're ready to go. Plus, the system also makes it so much more easier to identify which die cuts belong together. No more mixing up the layers. Now, it definitely made the whole process of layering floral die cuts so much more easier, straightforward, and enjoyable. Here's a closer look at the beautiful texture and dimension on this flower. It's truly stunning. And it's not just the petals that have layers, there are small layering dies for the flower centers as well, which adds even more realism and detail to the final look. I went ahead and assembled the remaining flowers off camera, so now we have four finished flowers ready to arrange on our cut front. As I mentioned earlier, you could easily leave the panel as is with just the stamped and ink blended branch for a clean and simple look, or you could go all in and add all the four flowers to create a fuller, more detailed background. I spent some time experimenting with the floral arrangement, trying to find the perfect placement for the flowers on my card front. While doing that, I noticed that the white tips of the petals were blending with the white background, making them a bit hard to distinguish. To fix this, I decided to add a soft wash of yellow behind the flowers. I figured the blue centers also would really stand out against that subtle yellow base. So I gently blended yellow ink along all four edges of the panel, fading it inward towards the stamped branch, just enough to give the flowers some contrast without overpowering my design. Before adding the flowers and the sentiment, I added a few black watercolor splatters to the card front for some extra visual interest. Once the panel was completely dry, I stamped my sentiment, which says, "Have a blessed day," from the same stamp set. To ensure perfect alignment, I used my grid transparency sheet. That's my little trick that I always rely on, and stamped my sentiment using the stamp wheel. I have to say, I'm really loving this tool. It's made stamping so much more precise and effortless. After stamping, I used my piercing tool to gently lift my cardstock from one edge of that sticky mat. With the sentiment in place and all of my stamped image done, all the ink blending and the splattering done, it was time to adhere the flowers. I added foam tape to the back of those floral images or die cut pieces, giving the card a lovely bit of dimension. Well, here you'll see how beautiful this card turned out. Very clean, simple, and elegant. I'm glad I chose to use just two flowers, and with the sentiment position in the lower left corner, I think that creates a beautiful and balanced focal point. Now, moving on to card number two. For this one, I'll be using the Magnificent Magnolias 3D embossing folder. This folder features three beautifully designed, elegant vases, each with intricate details. The coordinating stencil set allows you to easily add color and bring those designs to life. You could emboss all the three vases onto an A2 size panel to showcase that full design, but I decided to do something a bit different. Instead of embossing all three, I took a small scrap piece of white cardstock and focused on just one of those smaller vases to use them as my focal point for my card front. Once I was done embossing, I used the coordinating stencil and added some soft coloring to the vase, and I absolutely love how that turned out. Here I am using beautiful soft shades of blacks from the positively saturated inks. The 3D embossing adds amazing depth and texture, making the image feel dimensional and rich. To finish the piece, I carefully fussy cut around the edges of the vase with my scissor. This will be the main focal point of our card today. I made sure to position the vase on the panel in a way that left enough space on the top of the panel for stamping my magnolia branch. I used the same branch stamp as I used in card number one and colored it using similar shades of browns and greens to keep the look cohesive and harmonious. While stamping, I made sure to mask off the parts of the branch that I didn't need, specifically the areas that would end up hidden behind the vase. My original idea was to create two cards with a similar look, which is why I chose to use the same branch stamp set from the first design. However, if I was to recreate this card, I think I'd go with the other branch in the set, the one without the leaves, as it might suit the layout even better. You could also choose to leave the branch uncolored, which would then give the card a very clean and simple look. If you're not familiar with the term CAS, it stands for clean and simple, a very popular card making style that focuses on minimalism and elegance. With the embossed focal point piece and the stamped colored branch ready, I moved on to the sentiment. Off camera, I white heat embossed the lots of love sentiment and die cut it using the coordinating dies. I also die cut the sentiment two more times using plain black cardstock and layered them together. And well, then later on went on to add some similar watercolor splatters and assemble the card together. And here's a look at both the cards that we created today. You might notice I originally planned to add the die cut flowers as well on my second card, but in the end I decided to keep it simple. I truly love how both these projects turned out. Even though we were using the same set of products, we were able to create two completely different looks. One which features a rich floral background with a minimal sentiment, while the other that showcases a textured focal point and a bold sentiment strip, offering a clean and elegant contrast. Well, that's a wrap up for today's video, and I hope you really enjoyed watching it and found some inspiration along the way. All the supplies that I used to create the cards will be linked down in the description box below. Please note that all of these links are affiliate links, which means that if you shop using one of my links, I get a small commission at no cost to you guys. Thank you again for joining me today. Until next time, stay safe. Hello crafty friends and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is a little different. We don't have any card tutorial this time. Instead, I'll be sharing a finished product with you. A beautifully detailed wedding card that I'm so excited about. I used goodies from nearly every corner of my crafty stash, pulling in products from several favorite brands. I'll walk you through everything I used, from stamps and dies to embossing folders and all the gorgeous papers that brought this design to life. Before we dive in, I would really appreciate if you could take a minute to subscribe to my channel and hit on the bell icon so that you get notified every time I post a new video. As I mentioned before, I used quite a few different products to create this card. I've linked everything for you down in the description box, so be sure to check it out. Before we jump in, I wanted to mention that today's card is a bit larger than my usual designs. This one here is an A7 size measuring 5 by 7 inches. Normally, I stick to A2 size cards, which are slightly smaller at 4 1 quarter by 5.5 inches. Let's get started with this beautiful pink envelope. It's the A7 size cotton candy envelope by Simon Stamp, made from sturdy 80-pound paper, perfect for your 5 by 7 cards. I also like using these larger envelopes for regular A2 cards that are a bit more bulkier or have a lot of dimension. They come with a convenient self-sealing flap. Just peel and press to close. To begin with, you'll see I added a small floral detail in the top right corner of the card. Since I plan to hand deliver this card to my friend, I didn't have to worry about any postage space. If I were mailing it, I would have placed the floral element towards the lower left-hand corner instead. I also have plenty of space in the center to write the recipient's name. This floral accent ties in with the beautiful floral elements you'll see inside the card. To create it, I used the cherry blossoms embossing folder and coordinating cutting dies from Simon's Stamp. This embossing folder showcases a delicate cherry blossom pattern that adds a lovely touch to your card. It also comes with 3 coordinating dies, making it easy to cut and emboss individual blooms. These pieces are perfect for creating beautiful dimensional accents on your cards, scrapbook pages, and as I have done here, even on our envelopes. Take a look at that beautiful dimension on those flowers. I started by cutting the flowers from white cardstock using the coordinating die. I then ran them through the embossing folder to give them that beautiful dimensional look. To add a soft touch of color, I lightly ink blended some positively saturated bubblegum ink on the centers of the flower. And for my flower centers and the tiny little anthers, I used pink and yellow glitter pens from Violet Studios to give them that subtle hint of sparkle. To create the branch on this floral arrangement, I use the Be Bold Blooms die set by Spellbinders. It is one of my favorites because it includes a wide variety of dies that will let you build a stunning spray of bold and beautiful dimensional flowers. Along with the branch, the set also features petaled and layered floral elements, perfect for creating a striking floral focal point for your projects. I die cut the branch from craft cardstock and added some subtle details using mocha and cappuccino positively saturated inks. The ink blending here is very soft, barely noticeable on camera, but in person it adds a lovely touch. That slight hint of brown really enhances the look of that plain craft cardstock and gives it more depth. So that was our gorgeous cotton candy envelope, complete with a lovely dimensional floral design and space to write the name of the recipient. Now let's take a peek at what's inside. As I carefully slide the card out of the envelope, you'll immediately notice the intricate details on the front. I have created a gatefold design. This style opens from the center like a pair of doors, with the two side panels folding inwards to reveal the main design on the inside message. Now, on one panel, there is this beautiful purple wedding cake. You'll also see that I carried over the same floral arrangement from the envelope to tie everything together. There's a delicate congratulations sentiment and an embossed background panel on both of those gatefold panels. We also have my absolutely favorite part of this card, which is the two adorable puppies, adding a sweet touch to this design. These adorable pups are from the Round of Applause stamp set by Simon's Stamp. Aren't they just the cutest? Well, now let's talk about the cake that is featured on this panel. It's a die cut design created using some gorgeous specialty papers from Your Paper Insider. For the main layers, I used the delicate lavender Thai Unuru paper paired with a beautiful glitter cardstock to add some extra glitter, shine, and sparkle to this cake. The cake itself was made using the Build a Cake die set by Cat Scrappiness, which includes all the elements that you'll need to build this cake. We have the cake layers, the outline, little bow embellishment, and even the base of the cake. I cut the base from matte gold cardstock by Simon's Stamp to give it a more classy and elegant finish. The flowers you see here are the same ones that I featured on the envelope, created using the cherry blossom embossing folder and coordinating die. I use the same inking and coloring technique to keep everything cohesive. Now onto the sentiment strip. I used a very thin and delicate congratulations sentiment, which is a letterpress design from the Always and Forever sentiment strips and die set by Spellbinders. I adhered the sentiment on the right flap of this gatefold, so as you'll notice, the cake is placed on one flap while the sentiment sits nicely on the other, creating a balanced and elegant card front design. I used a gold twine to tie everything together literally and visually. Not only does it add a cohesive, elegant touch, but also helps keep the gatefold card securely closed. For my background, I used this beautiful embossing folder by Spellbinders. It actually came with my Spellbinders die cutting machine, and unfortunately, I didn't have a name, and I haven't been able to find it anywhere on the Spellbinders website also. So, if you happen to know or recognize this, please let me know what this embossing folder is called in the comments below. Now let's open this gatefold card. I gently untie the golden bow, and before we look inside, let me quickly walk you through how the front elements are arranged. The cake here is adhered to the left hand panel and the sentiment is attached to the right panel. They are positioned in a way that allows the card to open smoothly without anything getting in the way. You might also notice that the little pup standing behind the cake is actually attached to the right panel and not to the cake itself. This way, when you open the card, everything moves seamlessly and nothing overlaps awkwardly. And when the card is closed, the design comes together beautifully, giving an illusion of a single cohesive panel. Now that we have gone over the front panel in detail, let's take a look at the beautiful design inside the card. As I open the gatefold, you'll see a lovely scene inspired by nature and the cherry blossom theme. There are delicate butterflies and the same embossed and die cut cherry blossoms carried through from the front. a soft blue background, which I created using this absolutely gorgeous Thai Unuru paper again by Your Paper Insider. And of course, the showstopper, a glittering gown and an elegant suit, adding a truly special touch to this design. Unlike the envelope and the card front, I added a lot more floral elements to the inside of the card for a fuller and more vibrant look. I also included one of the Always and Forever letterpress sentiments, again from the same Spellbinder sentiment strip set. I trimmed it down to fit perfectly between the cluster of cherry blossoms, tying everything together beautifully. Now let's talk about the main focal point of this card, the bride and the groom. I created them using the bride and groom die set by Cat Scrappiness, which includes 14 dies that lets you craft elegant figures perfect not just for wedding cards but also for proms, graduation, and other formal occasions. For the bride's dress, I used white glitter cardstock from Simon's Stamp. The silver accents on the neckline, the bow, and the belt are specialty glitter cardstock papers by Your Paper Insider, the same ones which I used for the groom's shirt and his tie. Now, his suit is made from a soft, luxurious black paper, again from Your Paper Insider. And well, don't miss that tiny cherry blossom on the bride's gown. It's a sweet little detail as if the blossoms gently fell from the tree onto her dress. To tie in with the nature inspired theme, I decided to stamp a few butterflies in the background. I used two different sets for this. Now, one butterfly is from the Big Botanical stamp set, which was part of the recent You're My Favorite release, and the other one is from an older vintage garden set, which I believe came from one of the past Simon's stamp card kits that I have. I absolutely love this set, and well, it's one of my favorites so far. Now, I also added some delicate details and embellishments from the Big Botanical set to enhance the background. All of the stamping was done using the guava positively saturated ink, which added a soft, cohesive touch to our scene. I absolutely love how this card came together, from the elegant three-tiered cake and adorable puppies on the front of the card to the soft cherry blossom and the beautifully sparkly bride and groom inside. The nature-inspired theme really brings it all to life. Well, we are not done yet. Of course, we need a space to write our personal message for the bride and groom. For that, we'll flip to the back of the card. I created a small note card using the petal tipped label dies from Simon's Stamp. This was also part of the latest You're My Favorite release. This is a nesting die, and I used it to create a tiny little card that opens up for your message. On the front of this card, there's a letterpress sentiment that reads from all of us, paired with the three cherry blossoms to keep the theme consistent. Inside, there are just enough space to write your heartfelt note for the bride and groom. This little card also cleverly holds the gold twine in place, so once your message is written, you can wrap the twine around the card to keep both the gatefold and this back note card securely closed. And that wraps up this truly special wedding card, from elegant three-tiered cake and sweet little pups in the front to sparkly bride and groom and nature-inspired scene inside. It all came beautifully together. I especially love how the soft cherry blossom and thoughtful details tie everything in so perfectly. And of course, that little note card on the back adds the perfect finishing touch and space for your message, neatly held in place with that gold twine and the beautiful cotton candy envelope. I hope this project inspired you as much as I loved creating it. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe for more crafty inspiration, and leave a comment below. Also, please note that all the supplies that I used here have been linked down in the description box below. All of those links are affiliate links, which means that if you shop using one of my links, I get a small commission at no cost to you guys. Thank you so much for watching today's video. Until next time, stay safe. Hello crafty friends and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm really excited to share a clean and simple graduation card design that proves sometimes less really is more. With a nearly monochromatic color palette, this card has an elegant and timeless look, perfect for celebrating such a meaningful occasion. It's hard to believe how fast time flies. Many of the kids in our neighborhood who were just little babies not long time ago are now graduating. I can already imagine the day I will be making a graduation card for my own little one who's just over 20 months old. It'll be here before I know it. Well, before we take a look at this card project, I would really appreciate if you could take a minute to subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon so that get notified every time I post a new video. Let's start by taking a look at the stamps and dies that we will be using to create this card. For the focal point, I'll be using the CZ Designs Grad Hats die, and for my sentiment, I have chosen the Hats Off Grad stamp set. Now, both these are from an older release by Simon's Stamp. I have used the stamp set for a couple of previous projects, but this will be my first time using the grad hat die as the main focal point or the main element for our card. We will be adding sentiments from the stamp set, and I will not be using the coordinating dies here for this card. Now, as you can see here, the die set includes two pieces, one for the base of the graduation cap, while the other for adding those beautiful finishing touches. I separated these two using my wire snips to make them easier to work with. To cut the base of the graduation cap, I'm using white cardstock, and for all the detailed layers, I've chosen some stunning specialty papers from Your Paper Insider. For the black element of the cap, I went with this gorgeous matte black paper that has a soft, almost velvet like texture. It feels luxurious to touch. And to add some sparkle to the tassel, I used the super sparkly luster diamond paper for that perfect touch of shine. I didn't want to waste any of these beautiful papers, so I carefully positioned them over the die to get most out of each of those pieces. Now, since the glitter paper is quite a bit thicker than your regular standard cardstock, it took a couple of passes through my die cutting machine to get a clean and precise cut, but the result is totally worth it. Now that we've got all the little pieces cut and ready to go, it's time for the fun part, putting everything together to create our graduation cap. This die set is honestly super simple to assemble, which makes the whole process really enjoyable. There are just four pieces in total, and one of them is a large base of the cap. I used my Barely Art liquid glue to adhere everything in place. Just a little goes a long way and it holds beautifully. As you'll see when I start layering, there's a bit of white border showing beneath that detailed piece, since I used white cardstock for the base layer. I actually like the little bit of contrast, but if that's not your thing, you can definitely cut the base out of black cardstock instead. I'd recommend using a slightly different shade of black or maybe a textured black paper for the base layer. Just helps to the detailed pieces to stand out and not blend in too much. Here's a fun little tip I thought of after finishing the card. You can add a tiny embellishment or a small gem at the corner of the cap where the tassel would be attached to mimic a little button on the real graduation cap. It's such a small detail, but it really adds a nice finishing touch. And speaking of tassels, how gorgeous is that silver sparkle? I used the luster diamond glitter cardstock for mine, but you could totally switch it up for gold, rose gold, or any other metallic cardstock you love. It adds just the right amount of shine and makes the card feel extra special. Here's a closer look at the graduation cap. How gorgeous is that matte black with the sparkly tassel? It is such a strong focal point, you really don't need to add much else to the card front. To keep up with a clean monochromatic look, I used a light gray panel for my background and trimmed it down with a Spellbinder's nesting die to leave a nice wide border. Usually, I would cut down my panel to be 4 by 5 and quarter, but in this case, this panel is a lot more smaller than the regular 4 by 5 and quarter that I usually create. And just like the cap's base, I'm using white for the card base to keep everything looking fresh and cohesive. So originally I had planned to make a top folding portrait style card, but once I picked out my sentiment, I realized it was just a little bit longer than I expected. Rather than trying to squeeze it in, I decided to switch things up and go with a landscape layout instead. It gave me a lot more room to work with, and honestly, I'm really happy with how it turned out. To get everything lined up just right, I placed my little gray panel on my new Altenew stamp wheel. I love using this tool because the sticky mat holds the cardstock perfectly in place while stamping, no slipping or shifting, which is such a game changer. I also used my Simon System grid mat underneath to help make sure the sentiment was properly aligned. And before I even started stamping, I did place my graduation cap onto the panel just to get a rough idea of where everything would go. That way, I could position the sentiment exactly where I wanted it to be. For stamping, I used VersaFine Onyx Black ink. It is one of my go tos for crisp, black, bold impression. I started with the main sentiment which says Congrats grad and then added a little sub sentiment underneath that which says You made it. I thought it was a perfect touch, simple, encouraging, and it ties in really well with the overall graduation theme. And just like that, we've got our front panel stamped with both the main sentiment and this little sub sentiment. The card base is ready, the focal point is done. It's finally time to bring all the pieces together and finish this elegant graduation card. I started by adhering the light gray panel onto the white card base using some liquid glue. Super easy and gives me a little wiggle room to get everything straight. Then I grabbed some foam tape to pop the graduation cap and give it a little bit of dimension. But just before I stuck it down, I felt that this background needed a little extra something. So I went back to my stamp set and pulled out the tiny confetti stamp. Well, you could also add some embellishments, but I wanted to keep it really simple, so that's the reason I chose the confetti stamp. I randomly stamped a few of them across the panel using Simon Says Stamp's positively saturated ink in the shade flannel. It's a soft gray that blends beautifully with the background for a subtle festive touch and also keeping in mind the monochromatic look. Once I was happy with the confetti placement, I peeled off the backing from the foam tape on the graduation cap and placed it right onto the card front. And that's it. Here's a look at the finished card. I really love how clean and simple and elegant it turned out. The soft grey confetti in the background adds a fun detail without taking away from the minimalist style, and that sparkly tassel made with the luster diamond glitter paper adds just the right amount of shine. I kept things monochromatic for this version, but I think it would be so fun to try a rainbow background using those confetti stamps and maybe even add some color to the sentiments too. Well, I hope you enjoyed watching today's video and got a little creative inspiration from it. All the supplies that I used are listed down below in the description box if you'd like to check them out. Please note that all of those links are affiliate links, which means that if you shop using one of my links, I get a small commission at no cost to you guys. Thank you again for joining me today. Until next time, stay safe. Hello, crafty friends, and welcome back to my channel. Today, we are diving into a vibrant and dimensional project featuring a gorgeous 3D embossing folder and coordinating stencils from Altenew. I'll be doing some ink blending using my all-time favorite, the Simon System Positively Saturated Inks, to create a colorful, nature-inspired card that's perfect for those sunny summer vibes. Well, if you're new here, I would really appreciate if you could take a moment to subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss a crafty update. Let's start by taking a look at the products I'll be using today. We have the Imaginary Jungle 3D embossing folder along with the coordinating stencil set. This stunning embossing folder creates a beautifully detailed three-dimensional jungle scene perfect for adding depth and texture to your card front. The stencil comes in three layers. Stencil number one focuses on coloring the adorable bird and those fun whimsical circles, while stencils two and three bring the design to life by filling in all the lush jungle leaves and vibrant flowers, helping to complete the absolutely whimsical tropical scene. To bring my tree and nature inspired vision to life, I began by embossing a white A2 size panel using the Imaginary Jungle 3D embossing folder by Altenew. This embossing folder creates such an intrinsic etched detail. It's truly stunning and adds so much depth to our background. When working with 3D embossing folders, I prefer using an 80-pound cardstock. And before running it through my die cutting machine, I give the paper a light mist of water. This helps soften the fibers, reducing the chance of cracking and ensuring a clean, detailed impression. Whether I'm ink blending an entire panel or working on tiny die cut pieces, I always reach for my sticky mat to keep everything securely in place. It's especially helpful here since we'll be using three different stencils to add color to this beautiful background. Well, I'm using my Simon's Stamp sticky mat, which not only holds my cardstock steady, but also keeps the stencil from shifting while I ink blend. I began with the first stencil layer, the one featuring the bird and those whimsical little circles. For the bird's body, I chose gorgeous shades of purple, and for the belly, I used citrine, which is a soft, light yellow. As for the circles, I went with woodsy, which is a rich, vibrant brown that adds great contrast. I used the same woodsy ink to color in the bird's beak, and later in the video, you'll see me add a small dot to the eye using a black gel pen for a finishing touch. Next, I moved on to layer number two, which brings in all that lush greenery. For this layer, I used a mix of three beautiful green shades: Aegean, Perfection, and Limelicious. Blending all that across the panel with shading and color variation definitely gave my arms a bit of a workout. Once the greens were done, I moved on to stencil number three, which fills in the flowers. For those, I chose two lovely pinks from the same color trio, which is rose and peony. They add a perfect pop of vibrant color to the overall scene. For blending larger areas like the leaves, the bird's body, and the flowers, I used larger blending brushes that I picked up from Amazon. And to add the finer details and shadows on all these layers, I switched to my mini ink blending brushes by Cat Scrappiness. I will leave a link down to both of these products down in the description box below. Now that the ink blending is complete, just look at how vibrant and full of life this background turned out. The panel measures 5.5 by 4 1/4 inches, which is the standard A2 size card panel. Normally, I trim it down to 4 by 5 1/4 inches to leave a border, but I loved how this design came together, so I decided to keep it full size without trimming. With the background done, it's time to add a sentiment. This design is so versatile, you could use it for almost any occasions. You could add birthday sentiments or create a thank you card or even a simple thinking of you. You can either stamp your sentiment directly or go with a big, bold die cut sentiment. For my card, I chose a sentiment which says, "Have a blessed day," which I thought was just perfect. It comes from the Magnificent Magnolia stamp set. I placed the panel onto my stamp wheel and used the Simon's Stamp grid transparency sheet to align the sentiment precisely. I stamped it using VersaFine Onyx Black ink, which gives a beautiful, rich, and crisp impression. To remove the panel from the stamp wheel, I like to use a pokey tool, gently lifting from one corner and slowly releasing it from the ultra sticky mat to avoid any damage. Well, that's it. Our card front is all done and ready to be adhered on an A2 size card base. But before you do that, don't forget that little final little detail, the black dot for the bird's eye. I used a black gel pen to add that touch, though a tiny black gem would also be perfect if you want a little bit of sparkle on your card front. And here's a look at the finished card. I'm absolutely in love with how this turned out. It's bright, joyful, and full of life. There's something about nature that brings such peace, and I think this card beautifully captures that uplifting energy. I hope this project inspires you to get creative and try making a few nature inspired cards of your own. Thank you for joining me today. All the supplies that I used to create this project will be found linked in the description box below. Please note that all of these links are affiliate links, which means that if you shop using one of my links, I get a small commission at no cost to you guys. Thank you again for joining me today. Until next time, stay safe. Hello crafty friends and welcome back to my channel. Today we are creating a very clean and simple card design featuring a beautiful wavy background and a minimal floral die cut as the main focal point. I'll be using one of my favorite techniques, that is cutting the die cut pieces from white cardstock and bringing them live with some vibrant ink blending. Before we jump in, I'd really appreciate if you could take a minute to subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icons so that you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video. Let's dive into the products I'll be using today. So first up, I've got this very fun wavy background stamp by Simon's Stamp. It features a repeating pattern of smooth flowing curves that look a bit like squished rainbows or groovy waves. I love how bold and rhythmic this design is. It adds a great sense of movement and a subtle retro vibe to your backgrounds. It's perfect if you're going for a playful, modern, or even an abstract cut style. The stamp is also great for inking and coloring techniques, and it really helps create eye catching effects that make your card backgrounds pop. Next up, let's talk about the focal point of our card, for which I'll be using the exotic blooms die, which adds a beautiful touch of tropical elegance to our card front. This die features two leafy stems, each forming a single flared cup-shaped blossom. The prominent stamens really stand out and give the flowers some striking detail, making them a perfect focal point for any card design. Alright, so let's get started with our background. I'm beginning by stamping this beautiful design onto an A2 size card panel. To make things easier, I'm using my new Ultinew stamp wheel, which holds the cardstock securely in place. What I love about this tool is that it gives me enough room to stamp a full 6 by 6 inch background without worrying about the panel shifting around. For the color, I decided to go with a soft neutral tone. I'm using my Simon's Stamp Positively Saturated ink in the shade Latte. It allows a lovely light brown that creates a gentle baby soft background. I only stamped it once as I didn't want too much intensity or saturation on my background. The idea here is to keep the background subtle, just a hint of color, so that all of the attention stays on my focal point and the sentiment, which I will be stamping beside my focal point later on at the end. Now that our background is all done, let's move on to the focal point of the card. Off camera, I went ahead and die cut the exotic blooms using white cardstock. I used a 110-pound cardstock for this, especially because the stems on this floral arrangement are quite delicate. A heavier weight cardstock really helps keep everything sturdy and in place. Now, you could absolutely use colored cardstock for these little pieces, but I personally prefer starting with white. That way, I can customize the colors exactly how I wanted during the ink blending process. And honestly, I didn't even know I'd be using blue on my flowers until I reached this step. If I had a die cut from colored cardstock, I'd be locked into that color. So white gives me flexibility to go with the flow. Let me know in the comments below, what kind of crafter are you? Do you plan every detail before you start, or you just create as you go? I'm definitely the second type. I don't plan much, I just dive in. So, having everything cut from white cardstock makes the process so much more easier for me. To add color, I placed all of those tiny little pieces onto my Simon's Stamp sticky mat. It holds them in place perfectly while I ink blend using the positively saturated inks. Now, since these are super delicate and tiny, I'm using my mini ink blending brushes by Cat Scrappiness. They give me great control and even coverage, especially for those little details. If you look closely, you'll notice I didn't color the entire petal blue. I left the edges white to create a soft gradient. These brushes are perfect for that subtle blended look. Let's talk about the colors I used for the flowers and leaves. For my flowers, I started with Cadet. It's such a beautiful and vibrant blue. Well, to add some depth and dimension to the center of each petal, I blended in a bit of royal, which is the darker shade in the same ink trio. This gave the petals a very nice gradient and made them pop. I used a similar approach for my leaves. I blended two shades of green, pine and Asian, to give them a soft yet dynamic look. Then, to really make the stems and the base of the leaves more dramatic, I added a touch of woodsy, which is a dark brown shade. A little extra shading adds so much character to these beautiful flowers. And finally, for the stamens in the center of the flowers, I went with my all time favorite yellow, which is citrine. It is such a bold, cheerful shade and it really brings everything together. Now it's time to start assembling the floral elements. Using my Barely Art liquid glue, I went ahead and adhered the petals and the stamen together. I'm leaving the stems off for now because I wanted to finalize the placement of the entire floral arrangement on my card front before committing to that step. To do that, I bought back my wavy background panel and started playing around with the layout just to see how I can best position the flowers while making sure I leave enough space for my sentiment as well. Now, for this design, you could totally go with a die cut sentiment or even a sentiment strip, and that would look absolutely beautiful. But I decided to stamp my sentiment directly onto the background to keep the look very clean and cohesive. Once I was happy with the placement of everything, I went ahead and adhered the stems to the flower. Then, using more of that liquid glue, I attached the entire floral assembly onto the card front, creating this elegant and eye catching focal point. Here you'll see me using my reverse tweezers by Cat Scrappiness, and let me tell you, these are one of my top 5 must have crafty tools. I use them all the time, especially when I am working with tiny die cut pieces, small embellishments, or anything delicate that needs precise placement. They make the whole process so much more easier and accurate. What I love the most about the reverse tweezers are the comfortable grip. It's really easy on my hands even during longer crafting sessions. And the size of this is just perfect. It fits really nicely in my hand without feeling bulky or awkward. If you don't have a pair of these yet, I highly recommend adding them to your crafty stash. For me, it's an absolute 10 on 10. It's time for the final step, that is adding the sentiment. I'm bringing back my card panel into my stamp wheel. For the sentiment, I chose this beautiful quote from the Sunflower Garden stamp set by Simon Says Stamp, which says, "May your day be as beautiful as a field of white flowers." I thought it paired perfectly with the clean and simple design of our card, and it complements the floral focal point so nicely. It adds a warm, uplifting touch to finish off the entire card absolutely beautifully. And that's a wrap. Here's a look at our finished card. Isn't it amazing how simple this design is, yet so striking? Even with a full wavy background, it never overpowers our focal point. It actually enhances the overall look and keeps everything so cohesive. This subtle stamp pattern really ties in all the elements together, and paired with our sweet sentiment, this card works for so many different occasions: birthdays, thinking of you cards, or just a friendly hello. I hope today's video inspired you to try a clean and simple design with a bold background and a colorful focal point. All the supplies that I used to create this card will be linked down in the description box below. Please note that all of these links are affiliate links, which means that if you shop using one of my links, I get a small commission at no cost to you guys. Thank you again for joining me today. Until next time, stay safe. Hello, crafty friends, and welcome back to my channel. Well, most of the time, my card designs are super clean and simple with a small focal point and a lovely sentiment to tie it all together. But today I felt like trying something a little bit different. I wanted to go big with a bold focal point that takes up almost the entire card front, a busy background full of texture and interest, and just a tiny little sentiment banner for balance. In today's card, I'm sharing exactly that. We have a large die cut focal point, a beautifully layered stenciled background, and a sweet little sentiment to finish it off. There's all that and more crafty fun coming to your way in this video. But before we jump in, I'd really appreciate if you'd take a moment to subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon so that you'd get notified every time I post a new video. All the products that I'm using today are from the recent Up and Away release by Sizzix in collaboration with Catherine Pooler. This collection is full of gorgeous sky themed goodies, and I have picked out a few of my favorites for today's project. I'll be using the Up and Away stamp and die set, the floating fancy die, which will be the large focal point, and the In the Clouds layering stencil to create that dreamy background. But before we dive into detail into each of these products, I just have to take a moment to appreciate the stunning packaging they all come in. It's beautifully done and makes the unboxing experience even more special. If you'd like to learn more about the Up and Away release, I've got you covered. I'll leave a link in the description box to another video where I walk through the entire collection and share a few projects that I created using these beautiful products. To keep things simple, I have broken this video into a few parts. In the first part, we will start by creating our large die cut focal point for the card front using the floating fancy die set. This set includes 15 individual dies that come together to create a stunning hot air balloon. The delicate and intricate pieces are perfect not only for card making but also for scrapbook layouts and even home decor projects. Today we will be using some of the tiny floral elements as well in this die set to decorate our hot air balloon and add some extra charm. Well, to save time, I already went ahead and die cut all of those tiny little pieces with some beautiful pattern papers and solid color cardstocks from Your Paper Insider. I chose a mix of soft pinks and rich golden yellows that will really bring out the intricate details of our balloon. We will also be adding some light ink blending to few of those pieces to give them an extra depth and dimension. When it comes to ink blending on tiny die cut pieces, I always like to secure them onto my sticky mat. It just makes things so much more easier. Here I'm using the sticky mat from Simon's Stamp. I have one from Altenew as well, both of which I absolutely love. If you look closely, you'll notice I can easily move my mat around my work surface, and that's because I've kept the acetate backing on, which allows the mat to slide freely. Personally, I prefer not sticking it down. I find that having the flexibility to rotate and move the small die cut pieces around gives me much more control while I'm ink blending. Once I finished inking, I used my Barely Art liquid glue to layer them together, building up a beautifully decorated hot air balloon. Next, I added some color to the balloon's basket as well. This part comes in two separate pieces. You can either cut them using colored cardstock and enhance them with a bit of shading, like I did here with the light purple basket. Or you could also cut them out using plain white cardstock and add color to all of the pieces yourself. Assembling each component of this hot air balloon is actually quite simple. The pieces are designed to line up perfectly, so everything layers seamlessly to form a stunning focal point for your card. With a bit of quick ink blending and some easy layering, our beautiful hot air balloon focal point is all done. I will set that aside for now while we move on to our next step, which is creating our background. Now, this brings us to the second part of the video, that is building a dreamy stenciled background. For this, I'm using the In the Clouds layering stencil from, again, Sizzix. This was also part of the Catherine Pooler release. Now, it comes with 4 unique stencils that help you to create a soft, whimsical sky effect. Each layer adds a different detail to your cloud scene, giving you the freedom to customize your look. You can keep it subtle by using varying shades of the same color, or go bold and create a vibrant rainbow sky. The gentle curves of the clouds add a light, airy feel to your background, while the intricate patterns on the third and fourth stencil open up endless possibilities for layering and creative color combinations. If you take a closer look at the top of each stencil, you'll notice small punch marks on them. One of the best features of these Sizzix stencils is that they are designed to work seamlessly with the Sizzix stencil and stamp tool. This tool works similarly to a traditional stamping platform, but with a clever twist. It is specifically designed to make layering stencils and stamps super easy and incredibly precise. It ensures that each stencil layer and stamped elements lines up perfectly every single time. The tool includes a grid sheet, which is lightly adhesive sticky surface that holds your cardstock securely in place. To get started, simply position your cardstock onto this grid sheet. Then align your stencil using the punch hole marks along the top. They match up with the guides on the platform itself. There's also a stencil adapter included to help with the alignment, but I find these punch hole marks work great on their own. Once everything is aligned, you're ready to ink blend, just like you would with any other platform. When you're done with the first stencil, simply lift it off and line up the second one. You'll see it aligns perfectly with the first layer, making the transition seamless. That's the beauty of this amazing stamp and stencil tool. It takes the guesswork out of layering. Well, for my background, I'm using a mix of soft blue shades to create a serene, cloudy sky. For this card, I'm using just the first two stencils from the set and skipping stencil number 3 and 4, which are designed to add extra detail and texture to the clouds. As you can see here, it was super easy to remove the first stencil and line up the second one perfectly. This tool really takes the hassle out of working with layering stencils and makes the whole process so much more smoother. But it's not just for stencils. You can also use this versatile tool with your favorite clear and red rubber cling stamps. They stick easily to the stamping plate, so you can position them precisely before inking, ensuring your stamped design lands exactly where you want it. And don't forget to explore the additional accessories that go along with the stamp and stencil tool. They are designed to make your crafting experience so much more enjoyable. I'll have links to everything mentioned in the description box below. Be sure to check it out. Once I'm done ink blending, I like to lift the panel from one edge. I usually use a pointy die pick tool to gently slide it underneath the cardstock, allowing me to carefully peel it off the light adhesive grid sheet without any damage. And just like that, our background panel is ready. I'm really loving how beautifully the focal point and the background are coming together. It's already starting to look so cohesive and full of charm. Now, next part of the video is where we create a small sentiment strip to complete the card front. For the sentiment, I'm using the up and away stamp set and the coordinating die. I decided to turn this into a birthday card, but the set also includes two other sentiment, which is thinking of you and congratulations. This card design would work perfectly with any of those three sentiments. So let me know in the comments which sentiment would you choose. I personally always find myself reaching out for birthday cards, so I'm going to go with the happy birthday sentiment for this one. The set also includes coordinating dies, which I will use to cut out the stamp sentiment banner, along with a delicate lace style piece that adds a lovely decorative touch to the strip. It's the simple details, but it really helps tie everything together beautifully. To stamp the happy birthday sentiment onto my banner, I used a stamp and stencil tool once again. The sticky backing held the banner securely in place, preventing any shifting while stamping. Super helpful for getting a crisp, clean impression. Now that we've got all the main components ready, the background, the focal point, and the sentiment banner, it's time to bring everything together and assemble the card front. I began by placing the large hot air balloon right in the center of the panel using foam tape to pop it up for some added dimension. It might be hard to capture here on video, but in person, the raised focal point really gives it an illusion that the hot air balloon is floating against that dreamy, cloud filled sky. Next, I adhered the sentiment banner. I trimmed off one of the edges slightly to make sure it fits neatly within the A2 card frame. Don't worry, we will be covering that trimmed edge with all those beautiful floral embellishments. I also added the delicate red lace detail behind the banner to enhance the overall look and a bit more interest onto my card front. I die cut two flowers using white cardstock along with four leafy accents using gorgeous sparkly green cardstock from Your Paper Insider. I use these to create a lovely little floral arrangement right on the basket of our hot air balloon. Not only does this add charming touch of floral detail to our focal point, but also cleverly hides the trimmed edge of the sentiment banner, making everything look seamless and intentional. For the flower centers, I added a bit of sparkle using the Simon's Stamp Warm Tones Dazzling Gems. They give just the right touch of shine. And that's it. Our card is complete. All that's left is to adhere this finished panel onto an A2 size card base. I absolutely love how this card turned out. It's definitely a departure from my usual clean and simple style, but I'm also happy with the result. The bold focal point really makes a sentiment and pulls everything together beautifully. Here's another card I made using the same exact components, but this time I used all four stencil layers to complete the sky background. For this version, I went with the bolder shades of blue, which ended up feeling a bit too intense for my liking, so I decided to add a layer of vellum over it to soften the look. With just slight change in color and layering choices, it's amazing how I was able to create two distinct and beautiful cards using products from the Up and Away release. I really hope you enjoyed today's video and found some inspiration for your own crafting. All the supplies that I used will be linked down in the description box below. Please note that all of these links are affiliate links, which means that if you shop using one of my links, I get a small commission at no cost to you guys. Thank you again for joining me today. Until next time, stay safe. Hello, crafty friends, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm sharing a clean and simple card design that's not only perfect for mass production but also ideal for beginners. If you're just starting out your card making journey, this project is a great place to begin. All you need is a beautiful stamp set and some fun, vibrant colors. We'll be focusing solely on stamping today, creating both our focal point image and the sentiment with some eye catching inks. Before we dive in, I would really appreciate if you could take a moment to subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon so that you get notified whenever I post a new video. I'll be using the Be Happy stamp set by Simon's Stamp, which was part of one of their card kits. I absolutely love this set. It gives off such a beautiful summery vibe. For today's card, I'll be creating a large floral focal point using the layering stamps included in the set. There are three layers, one for the petals, one for the leaves and stem, and the third for the flower centers. I'll be using my Altenew stamp wheel today, which makes the stamping process so much more easier. I highly recommend using a stamping platform of any kind, especially if you're a beginner or working with layering stamps like we are for this card. While the design we are creating today works beautifully as a single layer card, where you could stamp the focal point image and your sentiment directly onto an A2 size card base, I decided to add a bit more color. So I will be using a green card base and stamping my floral image on a smaller white panel, which will leave a nice bold border around the edges. I'm absolutely in love with the Be Happy stamp set. It's a charming bee and floral theme set that's just perfect for this beautiful summer season. It's a wonderful way to embrace the buzz of creativity. Packed with adorable images and heartfelt sentiments, this set also includes beautifully detailed layering stamps that add vibrant dimensions to your projects. There are so many great sentiments included in this set, but my favorite is the one that I'll be using today. Believe in yourself and you can do it. I feel that's the absolute perfect sentiment and would go with any beautiful design. I started with the first layer of the floral image, which is the petals. These layering stamps are quite easy to use. Each layer is clearly numbered, making alignment so super simple. For the petals, I used a lovely mix of colors. I began with punch from the positively saturated inks and then added sangria to the center of the petals. I used a blending brush to softly blend the edges, creating a smooth gradient from deep pink to light. The result is a beautiful ombre effect that really brings the petals to life. Once I was happy with the colors on my petals, I moved on to the second layer, which is the stem and the leaves. I started with Perfection ink, a soft light green shade, and used it to cover the entire image. Well, I was really happy and satisfied with the coloring. I stamped this twice. Then I bought in a darker shade called Field and dabbed it randomly over the stamp for added depth. Unlike the petals, I didn't blend the edges this time. I actually liked the crisp contrast of the darker green on the leaves, which added a nice texture and detail. Note that after every stamping, I am cleaning my stamps. Next, I moved on to the third layer, the flower centers. I stamped this area twice using zest, a vibrant yellow, to build up the color. Then, to add a bit of textured, grainy effect, I lightly tapped on some terracotta ink, which is a beautiful, well, orangish or brown color. I love this color and it absolutely added a lot of dimensional look to my flower center. And that's it, a simple, clean floral focal point created with vibrant, beautiful colors. Because all the stamping is already done, this design is perfect for mass production. You can easily recreate it in a variety of color combinations. Keep the same greens for the stems and leaves and experiment with different bold shades for your petals and flower centers to give each card a unique feel. Now it's time to stamp our sentiment. I chose the phrase believe in yourself and you can do it and stamped it using a crisp black ink. In this case, I'm using my VersaFine Onyx black ink. When stamping sentiments, I like to use my grid transparency sheet to help ensure everything is straight and well aligned on the card front. One of the best things about using a stamp platform is the ability to double stamp if needed. Since the panels stay securely in place, especially since we are using a stamp wheel, our panel is stuck to the ultra sticky mat. You never have to worry about it shifting. Well, I'm already loving how beautiful this card front looks. At this point, the card could easily be considered complete. We have our vibrant floral focal point and a meaningful sentiment all set. All that's left is to adhere this panel onto our green card base. However, I wanted to add just a little something extra to this design. So I grabbed my stamp set again and decided to stamp a couple of those adorable honeybees buzzing around the flowers. I used the same VersaFine Onyx black ink and stamped one honeybee on each side of the floral arrangement. I chose to leave them uncovered, which still adds a nice touch of depth and interest to the card without overwhelming the focal image. Of course, you could take it a step further by stamping the bees on a scrap piece of white cardstock, coloring and fussy cutting them, and then popping them onto the card front. But since I wanted to keep this project focused entirely on stamping, I opted to stamp the bees directly onto the card panel instead of using die cuts or embellishments. Since I mentioned wanting the honeybees to appear as if they were buzzing around the flowers, of course, I had to add a little trail behind them. You could use black gel pen to draw simple dotted lines by hand, but at that moment I wasn't feeling very confident enough to freehand it. Instead, I reached out for another stamp set called Pixie Dust, which includes some beautiful trail designs. I used those to stamp a trail beneath each of those honeybees. With the trails in place, the card front was complete. I really loved the clean and simple look of the design, so I chose not to add any splatters, sparkle, bling, or embellishments. Well, which is so not my style, but I'm absolutely loving how this turned out. Once my card front was done, I finally adhered the finished panel to my green side folded card base. I absolutely love how this card turned out. It's a very clean and simple design that's not only easy to replicate but also perfect for mass producing in a variety of bright and vibrant colors. It's also a very beginner friendly project. So if you're new to my channel or just getting started with card making, I highly encourage you to try something similar. Simply stamp a bold focal point image and a sentiment directly onto your card base using some fun, vibrant inks. It's a great way to get started. I hope you enjoyed watching today's video and found a little inspiration along the way. All the supplies that I used for today's video will be found linked in the description box below. Please note that all of these links are affiliate links, which means that if you shop using one of my links, I get a small commission at no cost to you guys. Thank you again for joining me today. Until next time, stay safe. Hello, crafty friends, and welcome back to my channel. Well, today is release day over at Simon's Stamp, and I couldn't wait to dive into some of the gorgeous new goodies from their latest collection, Moments in Time. This release is absolutely packed with stunning stamps, dies, embossing folders, stencils, and so much more. I'll be showcasing a few of the amazing products that Simon kindly sent my way, and we will be creating two beautiful card projects featuring the elegant vintage bloom stamp set. Make sure to stick around until the very end of this video. I've got a little surprise for you. I'll be giving you an exclusive sneak peek at few more cards that I created using other items from this fabulous release. Before we jump into the products and today's card making, I would really appreciate if you could take a moment to subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon so that you never miss a new video. Before we dive into the card making, let us take a look at the products that I received in my package. Like I mentioned before, this release is packed with stunning stamps, dies, embossing folders, stencils, and so much more. Well, first up, we have the Banner Greetings stamp set. This is a beautiful 4x6 set that features two different banner outline designs, along with a great variety of sentiments. You will find messages like thinking of you, hello friend, happy birthday with so much love, and lots more, making it perfect for your everyday card making and thoughtful greetings. What makes this set even more fun is the coordinating stencil that it comes with. It's designed to help you easily add color and create beautiful ink blended effects on your banners. The stencil lines up perfectly, even on the smaller details of the banners, so you can get a clean and professional look every time. Next up is the Tethered Daisies. This is a stunning floral die set. It includes three separate dies that layer together to create a beautiful detailed daisy, perfect for adding as a striking focal point on your card front. It's a versatile piece that can bring both elegance and a touch of whimsy to your card projects. Next, we have an adorable 4x6-inch stamp set, and I have to say it's definitely my favorite from the entire collection. It's called Thank You Teacher, and well, isn't it just the cutest? The set features a sweet little scene with three students, a teacher, and a charming school building, all paired with a variety of heartfelt sentiments, perfect for expressing appreciations to the special teachers in our lives. Next up is the Back to School embossing folder and cutting die, an ideal companion to the Thank You Teacher stamp set. Now, this is a 3D embossing folder that creates a beautifully detailed pencil background with amazing texture and depth. It also includes a metal die that cuts out one of the pencils from the design. You can even pop the die cut piece back into the folder to highlight those gorgeous etched details. Next, we have the Giggle Hugs die, which is a sweet and petite little sentiment die set. It includes two pieces, one that cuts out the word hugs and another for the coordinating shadow layer. I'm absolutely in love with the font on this sentiment. It's playful yet elegant. I'm thinking of pairing this with the Daisies die. Together, they'd make a stunning and elegant card front. Last but certainly not the least, I have the stunning 6x8 stamp set called Vintage Blooms, and it's an absolute showstopper. Just look at the intricate detail in those floral illustrations, beautifully paired with thoughtful mix of sentiments like happy birthday, thank you for everything, missing you today and always, and lots more. And don't miss the charming little extras. There's a delicate postage stamp, sweet birds, a fragile sentiment strip, and that elegant postcard style font. All of those elements come together to make this set perfect for creating truly vintage inspired cards. Today, I will be using this set to create two very different card designs, each with its unique look, color palette, and mood. I really want to show you how versatile one stamp set can be and how it can help you create completely distinct cards with just a few creative choices. Both of the card designs I'm sharing today feature plenty of stamping and ink blending. They are also quick and easy to create, perfect if you're looking to mass produce cards without sacrificing style. For the first card, we will be doing some tone on tone stamping, which simply means using an ink color that closely matches the cardstock that you're using. This technique creates a subtle, elegant background that adds depth without overpowering the design. In my usual card making style, I tend to start with a white panel and add color through ink blending, not just for my background but also for my die cuts. But today I decided to switch things up and go bold with a rich red card panel. This is an A2 size panel that I placed onto my ultra sticky mat on the stamp wheel. I love how securely it holds the panel in place, making stamping so much more easier and precise. I began by stamping the sentiment. To ensure perfect alignment, I used my Simon's stamp grid transparency sheet to position it in a straight line. I positioned my sentiment on the lower left quadrant of this panel. Since this card features a tone on tone look, I wanted to add a touch of shine to make the sentiment pop. So, I stamped it with a clear embossing ink and heat set it using beautiful gold embossing powder by Simon's Stamp. Just a quick tip, don't forget to use an anti-static powder tool before stamping to avoid any stray embossing powder. I'm using the Simon's Stamp clear embossing ink pad to stamp my sentiment. I like to stamp it twice to ensure a crisp, clear impression. Since I'm working on a bold red cardstock, the watermark ink is easy to see, which is definitely more challenging when stamping on white cardstock. Next, once I'm done stamping, I generously apply the Simon's Stamp fine gold embossing powder over the stamped image, making sure every part was well covered. I usually keep a small paintbrush handy to gently brush away any stray embossing powder that might stick outside the stamped area. When it comes to heat setting, be sure your heat gun is fully heated before bringing it to the paper. Keep it moving in a circular motion and avoid holding it in one spot for too long as that can warp your cardstock. I also like to place my panel on a flat surface like the Positively Everything tool, which I find helps minimize warping a bit. Now that the sentiment is complete, I'll return the panel to my stamp wheel to start adding those gorgeous floral images from the stamp set. The goal here is to cover the entire panel with those beautiful vintage blooms. I carefully positioned the stamps on the panel to cover nearly the entire surface. We can stamp this in sections and any remaining blank areas can be filled in afterwards. I'll begin by stamping the larger vintage bloom on the right corner of the panel. This will beautifully fill the entire right side next to our gold embossed sentiment. I just love how the stamp nestles perfectly alongside this shiny sentiment. As I mentioned earlier, we are going for a tone on tone look. The closest red I had in my stash was the positively saturated ink in the shade cherry. I love how vibrant and rich this color is. You'll notice it's a bit darker than the cardstock, not exact match, but don't worry, we'll add some ink blending to deepen and soften the red, giving it that perfect vintage feel. I stamped this image twice to achieve a cleaner, crisper impression. You could definitely leave the panel as is, but I wanted to take it a step further and create a more dramatic effect by covering the entire panel with that beautiful vintage floral design. I then shifted the panel to the right corner of my stamp wheel to ensure there's enough space on my ultra sticky mat for the next image. To clean my stamps, I like to use a stamp cleaner along with a microfiber cloth, both by Simon's Stamp. Keep in mind that the colors like pink and reds can stain your stamp, but that's completely normal. Once your stamp is cleaned, you can confidently use it on your next project without worrying about any leftover color transferring. After cleaning my stamp, I moved on to the next set of blooms and stamped it just below the sentiment. Since part of this image extends beyond the edge of my panel, I used some post-it notes to mask the area. I didn't want any of that pink ink staining my ultra sticky mat. Using the same exact cherry ink, I stamped this image twice as well to ensure a clean, crisp impression. Next, I continued stamping the vintage blooms all around the sentiment, making sure to fill the entire panel with these beautiful floral arrangements. Just a quick reminder, be sure to place a sticky note or a scrap piece of cardstock under any areas that hang off the edge of the panel. This will help protect your work surface or your sticky mat from getting stained by that vibrant pink ink. Now that all the stamping and heat embossing is complete, our beautiful floral background with that shiny gold sentiment is ready. But we are not stopping there. It's time to take this panel to the next level by adding some depth, drama, and dimension. To do that, I'll be using the same cherry ink to softly blend around the edges of the panel. This ink blending helps create a more vintage look, which is exactly the effect that I was going for. Be sure to focus the ink just around the edges and keep gradually fading it as you move inwards, keeping the area around the sentiment clean and ink free. To deepen the look even further, I bought an vintage photo distress ink, which is a gorgeous warm brown shade, and added a bit more shading to the outer edges. You could also bring in black soot or charcoal ink from the Simon Says Positively Saturated ink line. It really enhances the vintage feel and gives the card added richness and contrast. This design is super versatile. You could recreate it with different colored cardstocks and vibrant inks for a whole new look. It's also perfect for mass production since it relies mostly on stamping and ink blending. And best of all, it's a very beginner friendly and ideal project for anyone just starting out on their card making journey. Here's a look at our finished panel. Isn't it absolutely stunning? I love how the colors came together with the bold red background complementing the florals perfectly. The ink blending added just the right mix of vibrancy and vintage charm. But of course, I couldn't stop there. I had to add some splatters for an extra texture and interest on the card front. So I brought the panel over to my splatter box and added some gold metallic watercolor, a perfect match for the gold on our sentiment. Once everything was completely dry, I adhered the panel directly on top of an A2 size cut base, and that completed our design. I can definitely see myself recreating this design in deep, rich tones like dark green, purple, and even navy blue. If you're someone who prefers softer color palettes, this would look just as beautiful in pastel shades too. I'd also love to experiment with adding those sweet little birds, the post-it stamp, and that fragile sentiment strip from the set. They could give the card an entirely different look and feel. And that's a wrap on card number one. Before we move on to the second card, I just want to mention that all the supplies I used to create this design were listed in the description box below, including the links to the brand new Moments in Time release. Moving on to card number two. For this one, I'll be using one of my all-time favorite techniques for creating bold and eye-catching card fronts, which is the embossed resist technique. This involves stamping your image, heat embossing it, and then ink blending over the entire panel. The heat embossed areas resist the ink, allowing the stamped design to shine through while the background picks up all that vibrant color. The result is a beautifully blended panel with striking glossy image that really pops. For this card, I'm creating a birthday design. I started with an A2 size white cardstock panel, and since I plan to do some heat embossing, I first prepped my surface with an anti-static powder tool to avoid any stray embossing. Next, I used VersaFine Onyx Black ink, which is a rich, deep black pigment ink, to stamp my floral focal point image in the right-hand corner of the panel along with the happy birthday sentiment. I absolutely love the font and size on the sentiment. It's bold enough to stand out, but perfectly balanced so that it doesn't compete with the floral design. Once I was happy with the stamping, I coated the images with my Simon Says clear embossing powder to prepare them for heat setting. Since this is a larger design that covers nearly half of the panel, it's important to let your heat gun fully heat up before bringing it to the cardstock. Also, be sure to keep the heat gun moving continuously rather than holding it in one spot. This helps minimize warping and ensures an even embossing finish across the entire image. Just take a look at that beautiful shine and gloss from the heat embossing. Isn't it absolutely stunning? You could absolutely leave this panel as is and simply mount it on a dark colored card base with some bling or embellishment for an elegant finish. But we are going to take it a step further with the embossed resist ink blending technique, where the heat embossed image resists all the ink we blend over it, allowing the stamped design to shine through beautifully. For this background, I chose a few lovely shades of teals to create a soft ombre effect. You'll notice I'm not ink blending right across the panel. Since we are going for a gradient ombre look, I'll be fading the color upward, leaving the top left corner completely white. Essentially, I'm adding color only around the embossed image to really let it stand out. When I'm ink blending on larger surfaces like this, I prefer using a scrap piece of cardstock or even printer paper as my work surface rather than sticking the panel onto something like an ultra sticky mat. I find this gives me a lot more freedom to move the panel around and adjust my blending angle comfortably. If you like ink blending, you'll know it's definitely a bit of a shoulder workout. Now that the panel is fully ink blended, all that's left is to mount it onto an A2 size card panel. Well, I think I must have missed recording this part, but just like I added gold splatters on card number one, I added some black watercolor splatters here too to complement the black embossed image and pull the whole thing together. Here's a look at both the finished cards. I absolutely love how beautiful they turned out. It's amazing how one single stamp set can be used to create two completely different designs. Not only are these cards stunning and simple to make, but they are also perfect for an easy mass production. Let me know in the comments below which card is your favorite. Do you prefer card number one with the tone on tone effect or card number two featuring the gorgeous embossed resist technique? So, those were the cards I created using the Vintage Blooms stamp set, part of the latest Moments in Time release by Simon Stamp. Now let's move on to the surprise I mentioned at the start of the video, where I will be sharing an exclusive sneak peek at some other projects that I made using products from this exciting new release. I will have videos showcasing all of these cards and the process of how I created these cards in the future, so please do stay tuned. Here's another card where I used the back to school embossing folder and coordinating die to create a striking card front with a distress blackout technique. I stamped the sentiment from the Thank You Teachers stamp set and added some faux splatters for an extra detail. I used the same 3D embossing folder again, but this time with a vibrant rainbow background. And for my focal point, I stamped the adorable little puppy holding an apple along with the sentiment from the Thank You Teachers stamp set. I then used the petal-tipped wafer die to create a charming focal point using that stamped image. That's another great example of how you can use one product to create two completely different looks. For my next card, I went for a clean and simple style. I stamped a couple of images from the Thank You Teacher stamp set along with a sentiment directly onto an A2 size card panel. I love the soft pastel tones on this one. The splatters you see here are actually faux splatters, a technique I'll be sharing in an upcoming video. My next card showcases the beautiful hugs word and shadow die paired with stamped images from the Thank You Teacher stamp set. Notice how I combine different sentiments from the set to create a unique personalized message for the card front. For the next two cards, I used the Banner Greetings stamp and coordinating stencil set. As the main focal point, I paired them with the large floral images from the Big Botanical stamp set, which was part of the You Are My Favorite release, which was the previous release by Simon Stamp. I wanted to highlight just how stunning these banners are and how easy it was to ink blend using the coordinating stencils. And if you've noticed, each one features a different design of banner. Last but not the least, I have a card featuring the tethered daisy wafer die, which I used to create the main focal point. I added some subtle stenciling to the background and paired it with the Thinking of You sentiment from the banner greeting stamp set. This just goes to show you can use the sentiment stamps on their own without needing to use the banners themselves. Those were the cards I created using the products from the latest Moments in Time release by Simon's Stamp. I had so much fun making these projects, and I have many more coming your way. If you haven't already, please do subscribe to my channel. I'll be sharing plenty more videos featuring these beautiful products. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed watching the video and got inspired. All the supplies that I used to create the cards with the vintage bloom stamp set are linked in the description box below, along with the links to the latest release. Please note that all of these links are affiliate links, which means that if you shop using one of my links, I get a small commission at no cost to you guys. Thank you again for joining me today. Until next time, stay safe. Hello, crafty friends, and welcome back to my channel. I hope you're having a blast exploring the fabulous new release by Simon's Stamp. Well, last night I shared a video featuring a few goodies that were sent to me from the latest Moments in Time collection. In that video, I showcased two cards that I created using the beautiful vintage bloom stamp set. Today, I'm back with a very clean and simple card design featuring one of my favorite stamps from this release. I will be creating a sweet little thank you note with minimal coloring and a touch of faux splatter for extra charm. Before we get started, I would really appreciate if you could take a moment to subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon so that you get notified whenever I post a new video. For today's card, I'm featuring the Thank You Teacher stamp set from the new release. This set includes an adorable group of three little children, one holding a sweet flower, another one with a backpack, and the third one carrying a little apple. It also includes a charming teacher image and a lovely school building scene. This set comes with a variety of sentiments that can be mixed and matched to create your own personalized message, making it perfect for thoughtful and unique cards. I decided to keep today's card very clean and simple. I'll be stamping the teacher along with the student holding the flower. Such a sweet little scene. It instantly brings back memories from my own school days. I remember having so much fun with my friends and my teachers. I wish I could go back to those old school days. Well, moving on. To get started, I'm using my Ultranew stamp wheel. I placed an A2 sized white cardstock panel onto the ultra sticky mat and then bought in my grid transparency sheet. This helps me align perfectly both the focal point image and the bold thank you sentiment from the set. I used Memento black ink for stamping since I will be coloring the images with alcohol markers. This ink is alcohol friendly, which is not the case with my VersaFine Onyx Black ink. I use my sleeve to apply a gentle pressure over the stamped image, and well, I like to stamp it twice to achieve a crisp, dark impression. Now, if you're using pigment ink like the VersaFine Onyx Black ink, I recommend either heat setting it or letting it completely dry before coloring with alcohol markers. This will help prevent any smudging or bleeding of the black ink during coloring. When it comes to coloring stamped images, especially smaller ones like these, my go-to markers are the Spectrum Noir Tri-Blend markers. These are fine tip markers that make it easy to color in the tiny details with precision. I also enjoy using my Uhuhu alcohol markers, but the set that I have includes brush tips, which aren't ideal for small, intricate areas, so I tend to avoid them for images like these. For today's card, I kept the color palette soft and simple using light pastel tones. The student character looked like a little cat to me, so I went with a ginger cat look using soft orangey brown shades. The teacher reminded me of a sweet little bunny, so I used the lightest gray for her fur and paired it with a lovely coral pink dress. To add a pop of contrast, I colored the student's shirt in a bright blue shade and added a bold red tie, a pretty pink flower, and an orange backpack to complete the look. For the background of my card, I chose to keep things very minimal and left it completely white. I felt that a clean, crisp backdrop would really allow the colored images to stand out and draw the viewer's attention directly to the focal point. Sometimes less truly is more, especially when working with delicate pastel tones. That said, if you're looking to add a bit more depth or visual interest, you could absolutely bring in some soft ink blending. A touch of blue at the top could easily represent the sky, while gentle green near the bottom would give the effect of grass or natural setting. Either approach would work beautifully, just depends on the way you're going for. Once I finished coloring the main focal point, I brought it back to my stamp wheel to add a little sub sentiment. I chose the phrase "for letting me shine," which, when paired with the bold thank you sentiment that is already stamped on this panel, reads as "Thank you for letting me shine." I thought it was perfect message to complement the sweet, heartfelt scene on the card, so fitting for a teacher-themed design. Now, instead of stamping the sub sentiment in black like the rest of the elements, I wanted to give it a soft, colorful touch that would tie in nicely with the pastel tones that I used for my focal point images. I reached out for my positively saturated ink in the shade Cantaloupe, which is a lovely light orange shade, and then added an ombre effect by blending in a blush toned pinkish orange towards the bottom. I absolutely love how soft the transition between the two colors adds a gentle, playful pop to the sentiment, just enough to catch the eye without overpowering the rest of the design. Here's a quick tip when building up layers of ink to create a gradient or an ombre effect. Try using a small ink blending tool or a fine blending brush. Gently blending over the edges will help soften any harsh lines and make the color transition look beautifully smooth and seamless. Now that the card front is complete, let's add a little extra interest and texture to the panel without taking away from its clean and simple aesthetic. With such a soft and thoughtful design scene, I didn't want to risk disrupting the look by adding ink splatters, which, while beautiful, can sometimes be unpredictable and tricky to control, especially on a finished card. If you've ever felt hesitant about adding splatters for fear of making a mess, here's a little trick I love to use instead. I take a black gel pen and add tiny dots in varying sizes, scattered organically across the panel. This technique gives an illusion of splatter without the mess or the uncertainty. There's really no right or wrong way to do this. Just go with the flow. Let your hand move naturally and allow some of the dots to be slightly larger while others remain very fine and barely visible. It's that variation that helps it look more natural, almost like a genuine ink splatter were added. It's a subtle yet effective way to add a touch of visual texture while keeping your design beautifully controlled and cohesive. And just like that, our card front is all finished and ready to be adhered onto a card base. At first, I considered mounting it onto a classic white card base, but after a little back and forth, I felt it to be too plain. It didn't quite complement the soft pastel tones and delicate details of the design. So I tried a bright pink card base next, thinking it might add a fun pop of color. But that ended up feeling a bit too bold and overpowering for the subtle vibe that I was going for. Finally, I found the perfect match in my stash, a light coral pink card base that beautifully echoed the soft shades used in the stamped image. It added just the right touch of color without distracting the overall design. Once I adhered the panel onto the card base, I brought back my black gel pen and added a few more tiny splatter like dots for added texture. I also used my white gel pen to add a subtle highlight on the little critters, bringing them to life with just a few delicate strokes. I absolutely love how this card turned out. It's a very clean and simple design, but the soft pastel tones, thoughtful coloring, and the subtle details really bring it together. The Thank You Teacher stamp set is hands down my favorite from this new release. The sentiments are incredibly versatile and heartfelt, and they can easily be mixed and matched to create personalized messages for any occasion. If you're looking to add something special to your collection, I highly recommend checking out this absolutely gorgeous stamp set, as well as the other beautiful products from the latest Moments in Time release. There's so much creative potential in every product from this release. Well, I hope you enjoyed watching today's video as much as I did creating this card for you guys. All the supplies that I used to create this card will be found linked in the description box below, along with links to the products from the new release. Please note that all of these links are affiliate links, which means that if you shop using one of my links, I get a small commission at no cost to you guys. Thank you again for joining me today. Until next time, stay safe.